What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. And as you guys can see from the title, we're talking all about the barbell bench press today. More specifically, we're going over horizontal pushing. So let's waste no time and jump right into it. Horizontal pushing involves starting with the arm at about 90 degrees in relation to your torso, and then from there, the wrist is going to move directly over top of the center of the chest to about 180 degrees out to the side, more in line with the front delt, aka the front of the shoulder. The movement finishes when you return back to the starting position. So movements that fall under the umbrella of horizontal pushing are going to include movements like the bench press, push-ups, and even chest flies. When it comes to horizontal pushing, the main focus is to develop the chest. The main muscles that are going to be working are going to be the pectoralis major, the pectoralis minor, the anterior delts, the forearms, and the triceps. Stability muscles like the latissimus dorsi, the glute max and minor, the quads and the calves are also going to be involved when it comes to the bench press specifically. Even if you're wearing multiple layers of clothing, it's noticeable if you have developed pecs and apparent to most people that you lift. So if your goals are more aesthetic based, developing your chest is going to be extremely important to making sure that your physique has an overall complete look to it. And of course, if you want to develop the overall strength of your chest, progressing on a movement like the barbell bench press is going to be phenomenal for improving it. So let's jump right into the form breakdown of the barbell bench press. You're going to start off by establishing your grip on the bar. Use your thumbs or your fingers to gain an even amount of spacing. Personally, I have slightly longer arms, so I like wrapping my ring fingers around the bar to have a slightly wider grip, because this allows me to put a lot of emphasis on my chest. When I have a little bit more narrow of a grip, I feel a lot more pressure in my triceps rather than I do in my chest. If you're unfamiliar with the different types of barbells, your standard barbell in most gyms is going to have 1 to 2 rings around it. If it has 2 rings, one of those rings is going to be dedicated for more powerlifting regulation and the other one for Olympic weightlifting regulation. As far as talking about barbells, that's a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down, and I'll save that for another video to describe the differences between multiple types of barbells. Now, since we're performing the bench press, this is technically a powerlifting movement, so if you're going to use those rings of the bar, use the ones that are more closer in rather than the ones that are more further apart, because those are the ones that are meant and designed for this lift. Now that your hands are evenly spaced out, focus on making sure that your body is in proper alignment. You want to focus on creating an arch in your lower back and digging your shoulder blades into the bench. It's great to visualize someone or something pulling you down by the backs of your shoulders and your hips into the bench as you set up. You're also going to want to focus on making sure that your feet are planted on the ground. Yes, this is a chest dominant movement, but as I mentioned earlier, your lower body is going to help stabilize you. Don't make the common mistake of not using your lower body. The more you stabilize with your lower body, the safer the lift will become, and the more likely you are to advance in weight and reps over time, which ultimately will make you stronger and help grow your chest. So from the ground up, focus on pressing your toes and your heels into the ground and trying to keep a pretty stable surface of your foot completely flat on the ground. As you lower the bar down towards your chest, focus on letting your knees drive out slightly and squeezing your glutes while they still remain on the bench. When you lower the bar, you want to think about breaking the bar in half away from your body. One of my favorite analogies when it comes to the bench press is to think about snapping a toothpick in half. Almost no one thinks about snapping a toothpick in half towards their body when they visualize snapping a toothpick. So if you think about this, when you get the bar in hand, snapping it away from you, you're going to start to engage your lats, and ultimately it's going to lead to a bigger, stronger, better bench press. When you think of breaking the bar in half, this engages your lats and allows you to stabilize the bar as well as you lower it down. Let the bar make contact with your breastbone just below the bottom of your chest. Remember, you want to think about driving your elbows down towards the ground at about a 45-degree angle. This is going to allow you to engage your chest to a high degree without putting too much stress on your shoulders or your triceps. Once the barbell contacts your chest, and your glutes are engaged, you want to start to press the bar back to the starting position. To do this properly, try to think about that toothpick analogy again. You're just going to bring it back together to make it appear as if it was never snapped in half in the first place. Using this mental cue will help you to make sure that you're pressing the bar at the right rate and not overdoing it by flaring out your elbows too soon or locking out the barbell too aggressively. As you finish the lift, you want to remember to still keep your shoulder blades on the bench. This can help you from not over-engaging your front delt. So I'm going to be honest, this is a lot to think about when it comes to the barbell bench press. My recommendation would be start with just 1 or 2 of these and really try to make sure you master it. Once you feel comfortable with it, then start to focus on some of these other cues and tips, and it'll become easier over time. Now, you may have encountered an injury in the past, or you might not like the barbell bench press, so there's plenty alternatives that you can do. So other movements you can do include movements like the dumbbell chest press, machine chest press, and even push-ups. Now, as I mentioned earlier, flies are also considered one of those horizontal pushing movements, but I wouldn't recommend necessarily focusing on flies so much in your programming. Now, recent research does show that the chest fly does have a decent amount of pec activation, but compared to the bench press, not nearly as much. So if your goal is to ultimately grow your chest or to build your overall strength, you're gonna be better off doing movements like the bench press, push-ups, or even a chest press over a fly motion. Now this doesn't mean that you can't utilize flies in your program, but I would focus more so on movements that bend at the elbow rather than movements where your elbow is a little more extended in order to grow your chest or develop your strength more so. When it comes to the dumbbell chest press, the form is pretty much identical. Now there's a decent amount of dispute out there that you should only be using the dumbbell chest press to build muscle versus the barbell bench press, but because both of them can progress over time and because you can add weight to both of them over time, I'd say they're both useful in a program. I'd maybe offset the different days that I do those movements so that way you get a decent amount of variety and don't over fatigue in one session. Like I said, the form is the exact same. Make sure you have a stable basis with your feet planted on the ground so that way you can use your lower body to help stabilize. From here, you're going to lower the dumbbells to be in line with where the barbell would be, where it would usually make contact with your chest. One great thing about the dumbbell chest press is that you can actually come down a little bit lower if you have the flexibility to. So think about the top end of the dumbbell being in line with the front of your shoulder, and you want to think about the bottom end of the dumbbell being in line closer to your elbow. Try to make sure your wrist stays flat as you lower the dumbbells down. And again, you want to think of that breaking in half sort of motion as you come down. And then as you press up, you're going to again try to bring that snapped in half toothpick back together. The body weight push-up, whether you perform it with your feet on the ground or your knees on the ground, is going to be the exact same thing as the bench press, but now you're flipped over. You're going to lower down so that your chest comes close to the ground, and if you can, try to let it make contact with the ground. You still want your elbows pinned in towards your body at about a 45-degree angle. So you don't want them out super wide, you don't want them in super narrow. The more flared out your elbows are, the more stress you're going to put on the front of your shoulder, and the more pinned in your elbows are, the more stress you're going to put on your triceps. Remember, our goal is to have a pretty even amount on all of these muscle groups with the primary goal of activating the chest mostly. As you press up from the push-up, think about pushing the ground away from you and then fully extending your elbows at the top. A side note, whether you're doing the bench press, a push-up, or a chest press, you can always fully lock out your elbow at the top as long as your muscles are engaged. If you feel like you're letting the weight rest on your joints, it's probably not as safe. But as long as you're squeezing your triceps, squeezing your pecs, and engaging your shoulders, it should be okay. For the machine chest press, pretty much your form is going to stay consistent with the barbell bench press and the dumbbell chest press. Again, you want your elbows tucked in towards your body at about a 45-degree angle. You're going to lower down until the handles of the machine are in line with your breastbone. And then from here, if the machine allows you to go a little bit deeper and you have the flexibility to, go ahead and do so. And then you're going to press up by letting your elbows rotate out just slightly as if you would with the barbell bench press. That's going to wrap it up for the video. I know that's a lot to talk about with the barbell bench press and its alternatives, but if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and drop them down below and let me know what you want me to cover or what questions you might have, and I'll go ahead and answer them. Alrighty guys, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.